Let me know, Mark. Good. Good afternoon. This is the November 22nd, 2021 version of the Police Station Building Committee. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody out there. Enjoy your week. And we have a quorum. We have full attendance, matter of fact. Thank you all. And this meeting is called to order. First item on the agenda is we have a few small bills to pay. We have two from Collier's Invoice and one from Allied Testing Laboratories for a total of $6,875.
Make a motion that we pay the bill.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pay the, Donna, do you have a question?
No.
To pay the previously mentioned bills totaling $6,875. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted unanimously. Next, we have our traditional reports. First up is our owner's project manager, Neil Joyce.
New budget update presented tonight reflects the payment of the bills that were just voted in. And just as a point of information, we received and processed 2 more letters of recommendation for access flooring and millwork, I think they were. So those are working their way through the city for signature, and you have an updated procurement log in front of you as well that reflects acceptance of those recommendations from Fontaine. And that is all for this evening.
Very good. Any questions? No? Neil, I'm trying to remember, on the, what was the buyout overrun last week? It looks like it's about 108,000.
I think the last 2 letters of recommendation together were a savings of about $45,000 on the budget. So there was that is reflected in.
That's gone up, that's what I
last
thought.
one. Yes.
Yeah, it was 54,000 last week. Well, that's good news.
Yes,
Thank you.
things are still heading in the other direction. Just be mindful they can swing it any more.
I understand that. We'll take what we can get.
There you go.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right, thanks,
Thank you.
Neil. Next up, we have Matt Salad from Tecton Architects. Matt? good afternoon.
Nothing new to report on today.
Nothing. Did you say?
Right, nothing.
Really? Well, that's a first. All right, and then, all right, how about Ryan? What do you got?
We're continuing progress on site. As you can see, masonry walls are going up, backfilling of utilities, underground plumbing and electrical is ongoing. Getting ready for structural steel here in 2 weeks. So first beams went up last Thursday in support of some structural masonry stuff over the garage door openings. We expect some more of that before the crane shows up to start the full steel erection December 6th. Like Neil said, we added on Continental Woodcraft, which was a saving of $39,000, and then John Pendergast Consulting for access flooring, which was $13,000. So good savings.
Very good.
Going to try to get the rest of that bought out in the next month here. So wish me
Excellent.
luck.
Anything? Everybody's good? I can see why we don't have meetings once a week. At this point. All right, now to the heart of the matter. Item number 4, review and act on proposed locker area and bathroom revisions. Who is handling that? Matt, you are up.
Mostly me. So, I think most of the decisions we made last week, but I just wanted to recap and go through those, and then go to the one open item that we had at the end of these slides. So just as a recap, one of the restrooms that we have made modifications to is the 2 female-male restrooms that were down in the corridor near patrol in the traffic offices. We were able to modify those in order to gain a single-hold, non-gendered restroom, as well as a non-gendered locker room with a shower changing area. And we were also able to accommodate a health/mother's room in the corner here as well. So we were able to add a little bit of program and fit it in here nicely. This has gone to Fontaine and is working its way through the coordination process with all the subs. We had a meeting with all the subcontractors today to go over any coordination issues or things like that they may have, and it looked like we were going to be in good shape with this layout as it stands now. So that's moving forward The next one was the second floor, where we had two single-hole restrooms and a small storage room next to them. And we were able to take over that little bit of storage space that we can accommodate elsewhere in the building. That was undesignated storage. It was sort of just leftover space, and we were able to accommodate two non-gendered locker room, bathroom, shower, changing room spaces on the second floor, so that we're able to get equity on both levels of the facility. Same thing, that's gone to the subs and is being coordinated as well. We reviewed that today, and because we already had plumbing and venting and all those things in this area, and the other room was an empty storage room, coordination is fairly straightforward with this, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue either. One of the areas that we didn't make a full determination on, and there was a little bit of confusion over, was the two public restrooms out in the lobby and how we were going to accommodate with that. And there was some back and forth over the past week on this. We came up with some alternate options, and I think as a group we came to something that might work without having to affect these. If you recall, these two restrooms, it was two stall, male and female, one on either end of the lobby. And when we had discussed this last week, the ability to go to 4 single-hold restrooms in the lobby area would have either significantly impacted the architecture of the lobby space itself, apologies on that, or taken away from the clerk's office training room and the 2 public meeting rooms. And that's something we really didn't want to do if we could afford another solution. And so that's when we had proposed the option of going to 2 gender-neutral double-stalled facilities with full-height toilet partitions. And there was a little confusion on what that would look like, so I did pull up a couple of other precedents on what that would look like. But ultimately, I think what we would recommend is that we just leave these male and female restrooms. I think we have a solution that can accommodate the gender-neutral facility with public access. And that's my next slide after this. But I think what we would recommend is that we would still recommend changing the urinal in the men's restroom to a toilet and still going with the change to the full-height toilet partitions. That way, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, if the consensus changes and the attitude changes in town, or the need is different, that you'd be set up for that in the future. So it wouldn't change it from a men's and women's separated restrooms, but it would give you more flexibility down the road if you need it. And then what we would do is propose an alternate third restroom that the public would have access to that is within reach. And the area that's highlighted here are the 2 single-stall restrooms that are just to the north of the clerks and the 311 offices. Those are both serving the civilian staff that are in those areas, and we have 2 there. That staff would really only need 1 based on the population of those offices. So we're able to accommodate separating those 2, where 1 would be for staff use only and 1 would be available to the public. And this is what it would look like. So the image on the left is the current design. This is the licensing room is to the bottom, and then there's the public interview room that flanks the main desk off to the north. And then you can see there's sort of this secure vestibule portion between the civilian staff areas and the rest of the building, and that's where these 2 restrooms exist. They're already non-gendered unisex bathrooms, one labeled 115 and 116 there. And then on the right is what we would propose is basically the door that separates this secure vestibule portion of the building. We basically just move that door to the left, securing one of the restrooms for staff use and then allowing the public access to the other one there. So we would basically be, for the most part, juggling a couple of doors, moving their locations within this area to accommodate this change, and that would essentially give the public that third option without having to add a bathroom or take a program from somewhere else. The only real change with this is that we're modifying our secure envelope for the interior portions of the police station facility. So the separation between readily accessible public areas and police staff areas, we have ballistic ratings in the wall assemblies, So we would have to extend that ballistic rating into this secure corridor, and that's really the main cost associated with this one change. Any questions on that?
Questions? I just have one question, I guess. How are we gonna designate, I know so it'll say men's room, out in the, say men's room, ladies' room, what was the third one?
Just
How will that be labeled?
Just restroom.
Just restroom,
Yeah,
okay.
we can,
all right.
we can supplement that with any sort of pictogram or anything that the town would want to see designated, but I would just label it restroom. and
Okay,
phone number.
all right, just curious.
Yep.
Anything else?
On this?
Yeah,
On this design? Because I get something on something else.
Donna,
I think you did a good job of coming up with a
yeah.
pretty basic solution. What kind of expense is this?
That's you.
Based, based on the value of the ballistics rated panel, I'd ask to have the total not to exceed, which was previously $75,000, increased to $100,000, just to make sure that I encompass the cost for the ballistics panels would be what my ask would be on.
They're that expensive?
They are very expensive, yes. And that's based off of input from my drywaller, who is contracted to do the base contract on this, so it's not values I'm pulling out of thin air. So I think with that, I'd comfortably be able to do all the proposed changes.
Joe?
Matt, could you just point out to us what is going to be added for ballistic ratings on the wall?
Sure.
Which walls? If you have a pointer on that or whatever you want to do.
So, currently, there's a door here, so this is the sort of termination point of that ballistic rating. But it does envelop some of the public access areas, so we currently have it here, we currently have it here. We'd have to extend it, we basically have to extend it here, and because they have access to this restroom, we'd extend it back through there. So it's down this corridor, and then around the toilet room, and then back to here.
Okay.
And then the other changes are this door here, we basically just move it over. The door that goes into dispatch was previously here, as you can see, we'd be shifting that down.
Mhm.
So then the only new door we'd be adding is this one here, just to make sure that there's a secure vestibule to the other side of that areas. And the idea there is that you don't want the public piggybacking off an officer or somebody that is badged to get in there. It gives a little bit more security to the staff in the building.
Very good. Mo, you had something?
I have something on the front bathrooms. I think it's a great solution.
Yeah.
I think it's probably, well, it's simple and it works, so that's good.
Yeah.
I have a question on the bathrooms, or a comment, really. If we're not, I don't have a problem changing urinal to a toilet, whatever, that's 6 of one, half dozen the other. Why are we gonna spend the money on those full wall petitions if we might use it in 10 to 15 years? Why don't we just save the money and leave them the way they are, currently designed?
So if I could respond to this, I had a meeting with the prospective vendor for those, for the partitions, to review possible cost increases, and I think that the change to full height partitions could be compensated in the buyout savings within those packages. So it would be a minor upcharge to do those once you remove the partitions that are getting taken out in bathroom 127 and 129, the first floor. You have savings from that because you're saving 3 partitions and a urinal screen, but there's an upcharge to those full heights. Since they're heavier, it takes more time to install, but it would be a relative wash with a minor upcharge to go to that. So that could be,
Sure.
you could say, get that in your procurement,
Okay.
essentially.
That's crazy about the idea, but if it's almost cost neutral, that's fine, but, how are those petitions built? Like, are they this thick, are they this thick? What,
The same as a normal, yeah, they're a little less than an inch thick.
are they metal or
These
they-
are phenolic.
solid?
Phenolic,
Solid?
yes, solid.
How, I know they've just secured in the traditional sense, how are these secured to the floor? Same way?
Same way, yeah. So there's a stainless steel shoe essentially that bolts to the floor that these pilasters would then build into. So they'd be built just like a normal toilet partition would, just without a big gap at the bottom, just a small gap.
And do you think I've never seen them before. I've seen I know you're talking about the material, but these things, is there history of these things getting used somewhere that we know they're gonna hold up, there's not gonna be issues with them because they're full height or whatever?
From my discussion with from the vendor last week, he said that they are seeing these being used in more and more locations.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, how long have they been around? A year, 2 years, 10 years?
He said there's multiple options from all your vendors. All your traditional vendors have these as options, so I can't say on the lifespan of them, but it's not something that you can only get it from one vendor. It's not a super specialty item in that space.
Okay. Just wanna make sure if we're gonna go through the effort, make sure that we get something that's gonna hold up.
Yeah, I don't have data on whether or not these are gonna last longer or the same as the traditional ones, but I will say these aren't new. These aren't like new to the market. These have
Okay.
been around for a long time.
All right, thank you.
And Ryan, that minor upcharge for putting in the full partitions, that would be covered in the 100,000, not to exceed?
At worst, it would be an overrun that would be accounted for in the $100,000 in savings. I don't know
Okay.
exactly where they're at in their total package, so it could be covered within the package itself.
Okay. John?
In the past, I know the full height petitions that you're speaking of, I know in the industry that I'm in, we have used them. And I think in one of the schools we put them in, required that they wanted them, it was 5 years ago. So I know they're still in use, and the vendor that said they were, they're very good. But we have both in the school that we built, we have petitions and full height. And so I know they're being used in the industry of today.
And from a maintenance and cleaning and sanitary perspective, there wouldn't be a significant difference?
Just more surface area you have to clean
Okay.
instead of open space.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Okay. It sounds like we're a go on that plan. I think, Kristen, maybe I think we need to amend our
Yes,
not to
we can-
exceed.
Have a motion to, do you want me to make the motion?
Please.
Sure. So I move that we act on the proposed locker area and bathroom revisions shown in the plans this evening with a not-to-exceed budget of $100,000 to cover the first floor only, including the ballistic panels.
Well, the previous 75 was first and second.
First and second,
So
yeah.
I'm comfortable with that, with an additional $25,000 to cover,
So $100,000 total.
correct.
Okay.
Got it.
Second.
We have a motion.
question.
Oh, sure.
So, is the way you made that motion cover the first two things, still cover the first two things we did?
First floor locker rooms and ballistic
Okay,
panels
I
and bathroom revisions.
didn't quite hear it right. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Have you got that, Alex? Very well. You're better than me. All right. I think we have a motion and a second to act and approve on the bathroom and locker room area revisions on the first floor, second floor, and public areas not to exceed $100,000. Is that
I
correct?
think we were saying not to exceed $100,000 for the first floor only because we don't know what the second floor, or we have no change on the second floor costs.
No, we are aware of what the second floor is. I'm comfortable with that,
Okay,
So we're covering everything.
yes.
Okay.
okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted unanimously. Thank you, everybody.
Nice job putting it all together.
Yes,
That was
really
a lot of
nice
work
job.
in a short period of time from the other part that you did, so.
And a very practical
It was a really good
solution.
team effort.
Yeah, it was really, really well done. Other business? Anything, anybody?
Did you want to talk?
Since
Want
last
to talk
week.
about the change order
Yeah.
process?
Sure.
So on the previous building project, the current building project, change orders will come up on this project. We know that's gonna happen. Typically, the way that works is a sub-trade or a trade will bring that to Fontaine for whatever reason. Fontaine will review with the architect and then come up with a possible solution. Sometimes it's an expense, sometimes it's a credit. And then our OPM will review that and give us their opinion, you know, make sure it's real or not. I guess that's a simple way to put it. And then typically the OPM, at least on the Beal project, would send that over to Kevin and myself to review and then approve. And then, so in this case, it would be same process. It would be Kristen and myself.
Okay.
Review and approve. We can put a cap on it for a certain amount, you know, maybe has to come to the committee, or we may have something come across our desk that's worth $1,000, and we might say, yeah, this has to have committee approval.
Sure.
For whatever reason. So it gives, so it does two things. It keeps the project moving.
Yep.
Which is the key, to not lose that time, but also it gets vetted out between our consultant and us to make sure that it's something that we definitely we would like to go forward with. So I think wanted to bring up that process to make sure the committee is okay with it.
Sure.
And whether, I don't think it's on the agenda this evening, so maybe next meeting, if you feel it's appropriate to vote that process in, we probably should do that.
Okay. So I guess my only question is, and I haven't worked on other projects you have, what is the generally accepted number before it's brought to the committee?
Well, on Beal, I think it was really anything probably over 30,000. But like I said, we had some that were small numbers.
Yep.
That we waited for approval
Okay.
from the committee, just based on the change that it would have made.
Sure.
And that's the cool thing about CMI Risk too, is this crew is working together, making sure the process goes well, and then our OPM as our consultant who knows more than we do.
Sure.
The reality of it is, you know, helps us through that whole process.
Yeah. And the communication process, would those come up in the weekly updates, any of the changes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
And we're only going to be talking about credits, right? Not,
Well, I'll bring.
can we vote on that or not?
So I know we have one coming, a PCO coming, it's related to Selco. And the original plan showed the power coming in a certain way. Selco's engineers came out and said, hey, we'd like to do it this way. So there's more underground pipe that's gonna be done and some tree removals. So that's kind of like, it's an expense, but at the same time, it improves the utility service.
Right.
And, you know, that's kind of what they want.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, we know something like that's gonna come across, but there may be others that are much smaller, like find something, a pipe is in the way or whatever, and
Okay.
gotta make a change.
Okay. One other question, because I'm just with that $30,000, has it ever been done where it's kind of a percentage of the cost where that part is put in? Because 30,000 may not be a whole lot on one thing, but it may double the size of a project, on some other expense.
Right.
So if it were, a 2% change, a 5% change, has that ever been done before?
Not necessarily in a
Okay.
percentage, right, for us.
Jim,
All right. Donna?
I just want clarification on the communication process for that.
Sure.
What would it be?
So, do you want to speak to that, Neil, how it works from the construction side?
So normally, the way that it works is there may be an initiating document, whether it's a question and answer, whether it's a request from the committee or from the owner. The flow of information will go through the normal contract processes to Fontaine. Fontaine will solicit pricing from the vendors. It'll come back through Fontaine. And then we'll negotiate the change the best that we can, although I'm sure the pricing will come back fair and reasonable right out of the gate. And we will make a recommendation to, I think, if I heard it right, Kristen and Keith, as to acceptance and as to scope and fairness of pricing. and then that information will flow back to the committee. Now, I think that there's some gray area as to whether or not you guys want the interim discussions to occur. I think that to some degree, that's what we're trying to avoid, is having to do multiple short meetings each month because these issues come up. The way that it's worked, I think it's worked very well on past projects, is if there's a group of individuals that are kind of keyed in, and they're sort of the decision makers, and then the committee will have the opportunity to see every change order when it's brought back, ultimately as part of the requisition process or the approval process as they go through. So you're gonna see everything. Just the question is whether you're gonna see it sort of before it's green lighted to move forward, or whether it's after. And that's usually when you find a limit. Sometimes there's a limit. If there isn't, for any reason, a consensus among the group, and it's below the upset limit, then we can certainly bring everything back. It's just a question of schedule and keeping things moving forward. So it's very customized. It can be as simple or as complicated as you'd like to make it. We're just trying to keep it simple.
Mr. Chair, can I just follow up with that
Donna,
first?
yes.
So the reason I asked about process is to keep it simple.
Yes.
I'm wondering if there could just be some sort of like a tally sheet for the week of change orders that just gets posted to us through,
Through the weekly update.
through, Alex, when she post the stuff for us, that there just be a sheet, that here's the change orders for the week.
Hopefully there aren't many.
I was gonna say,
No, I
I hope
know.
we're not having
Well,
that.
Hopefully we'll get it monthly, but
All I'm trying to do is keep it simple, but keep the communication flowing.
Sure.
Not for us to micromanage it,
Right.
but just so that we know.
Joe?
So just in my experience with the public safety in Southborough, it's kind of how it was done then. So there was a threshold, it was either $5,000 or $10,000, anything below that number, the town administrator had the authority to authorize. Anything between, and I'm not sure of the numbers, they were somewhere between there. Say 10 and 20, the chair of the committee and the town administrator would authorize. Anything, any big ticket items above that would go to the committee for approval. And then the committee every month would get a tally of all the change order stuff, so.
That's all.
Yeah.
It's just a communication through the committee. So very similar, but it seems like
that
the
sounds
the right direction that we're going in here.
We can't really vote on this tonight because we shouldn't, it's not on the agenda. But if we're gonna do that, I'd like to suggest that the chair is included in those. The rest of the board doesn't need to be. I don't think if the chair's in, because we'll have to have.
That way,
But I just,
yeah.
I feel better if there's somebody on the committee that's only meeting once a month, is more on top of what's happening. And I think if we can do it with the chair, I think that would be good. I don't think it's gonna complicate it. Because these are change orders that basically need to be done. If it's something discretionary, I'm assuming that would be something that would come before, unless it's minor, but this is stuff that has to be done because of issues that come up on the site, right? It's not like we want to change X, Y, Z because, of aesthetics or something like that. That's really optional.
So just for an example, Mo, so they would lay out the electrical plans in all the rooms. So you'd have an outlet here, here, and here. When you go through and do the walkthrough, I know we made changes to a location. It required a change order. So it was
Right.
very minor. Didn't have to go to the committee, but it was something
Right.
that, these guys could take care of on a day-to-day basis. Just give us a tally at the end of the day
Right.
of
Right.
what that consisted. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, but if
Anything,
it's
if you're
something-
changing a wall from here to here, and it involved, changing the dynamics and the room size and
Yeah.
cost, then it was a little bit different, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keith?
And one thing that we do ask for from the OPM is when there is a change order to get an explanation.
Sure.
So we, of course, share that explanation with the committee.
Right.
No matter what the value of the change is.
Excellent. So it sounds like the communication will not be an issue on, no, good. I'm okay with that. I mean, so,
You really shouldn't be voting on
Yeah,
this.
so I
It's-
no, we're not gonna
Recommendation.
vote on it, but, yeah, I'm comfortable with, I'm generally available. I think, to Mo's point, I think, That way, if it's communicated to me right up front, we know that if I want to get, if we need to get it out to the entire committee, we can do that. It'll be an easy process.
You can do this
Comfortable with
over
that?
the phone, right?
Yeah, we can work.
Yeah,
I'll
It's
work
not a
Exactly.
meeting.
I'll
Right.
work
I mean,
with
a
the team this
public-
week, and we'll come up with some parameters, and then at our December 20th meeting, we can vote on the
Yeah.
parameters, whether it's everything goes to the chair first, or it's just internal for certain things. We'll run it by you before the meeting,
Right.
obviously, and then what is the magnitude to go to the committee. So
Sure,
We'll prepare something in the next week or two.
excellent,
And have that ready for a review and act on the December 20th meeting.
good.
And in the meantime, do we anticipate any change orders?
Just credits, don't forget.
No, but we may see one on the 20th.
Yes.
You'll have your first change order on the 20th,
Okay.
Okay,
So we'll give it a good dry run.
which is
We'll
good.
review and act and then we'll change.
Yeah, it's got pluses and minuses.
all right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Keith, for the explanation. That's helpful. Anything else? Okay, our next meeting is December 20th, 2021, unless you want to meet beforehand, which I don't think anybody does. Very good.
Thank you.
We have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank